Humanity had always been considered an afterthought in the grand order of the galaxy. To the mighty empires that ruled the stars, Earth was a backwater world, barely capable of interstellar travel. The Zarthuan Dominion, the most powerful of these empires, saw humans as weak, fragile creatures with no claim to the cosmic battlefield. For centuries, the Dominion had crushed any civilization that dared challenge its rule. It held thousands of systems in an iron grip, its fleets vast and unstoppable. Every rebellion, every upstart power that rose, had been swiftly eradicated. Their warships, armed with energy-based weaponry and impenetrable graviton shields, had never met a real threat. The galaxy existed in a state of totalitarian order, and the Dominion stood at its apex. Then, without warning, something changed. Reports filtered in from the Rim worlds. One of the Dominion's patrol fleets had been completely annihilated. An entire battle group, consisting of state-of-the-art warships, had ceased to exist. The survivors spoke in hushed, panicked voices an enemy they could not understand. One ship, a single vessel, bearing human markings, had wiped them out effortlessly. The Dominion Council dismissed the reports as exaggeration. Humanity had no fleet, no war industry capable of producing a capital-class warship, let alone something powerful enough to destroy a battle group. But as the weeks passed, more distress signals emerged. Merchant convoys vanished without a trace. Frontier stations were left as nothing more than floating debris. Each time, the only clue was a fleeting sensor echo, something enormous moving through the void. Concern turned to fear when a scout vessel managed to send back a brief transmission before it was reduced to silence. A blurry, distorted image of a ship unlike anything the Dominion had ever encountered. It was massive, dwarfing even their dreadnoughts. Its hull was black as the void, absorbing all scans. It did not respond to hails. It did not appear on standard sensor grids. It was a ghost, moving with terrifying precision through Dominion space. Admiral Carthos, commander of the Dominion's 42nd Armada, was given a simple order: find and destroy the anomaly. He scoffed at the task. Humans were primitive, barely competent in starship engineering. Whatever ship they had built, it would be no match for a full Dominion battle group. He mobilized his forces, 150 warships, armed with the finest Dominion technology, and set course to the sector where the last sighting had occurred. As his fleet approached the coordinates, an uneasy silence settled over the bridge. There was nothing on their sensors. No planets, no debris, just an empty void. Then, without warning, it appeared. The human warship emerged in the darkness, its sheer size sending a ripple of unease through the Dominion ranks. This was no ordinary battleship. It was a floating fortress, built with an architecture no known race had ever seen. Its hull shimmered with an unknown alloy, reflecting no energy signatures. It had no visible weapon ports, no standard heat emissions. It was as if it had been sculpted from the void itself. Carthos sneered. It was impressive, yes, but it was still just a ship. He opened a channel, issuing a single warning: surrender or be annihilated. The human vessel did not respond. Not a single word. It simply floated there as if waiting. Annoyed, Carthos gave the order. The Dominion fleet unleashed a full volley of graviton lances and plasma torpedoes, their combined firepower capable of reducing moons to rubble. The space between them erupted in a maelstrom of energy. The weapon struck the human ship dead on, and did nothing. For the first time in his long career, Carthos felt fear. The energy blast dissipated on impact, vanishing as if they had never existed. The warship remained untouched, completely indifferent to their attack. It was impossible. No known material could resist that level of firepower. Before he could process what was happening, the human ship retaliated. A single blast. Not a beam of energy, not an exotic weapon, just a projectile. A tungsten slug moving at a fraction below light speed. The Dominion ship it struck didn't explode. It simply ceased to be, reduced atoms in an instant. Then the real slaughter began. Panic erupted across the Dominion fleet. One moment, they had fired the opening volley, expecting their enemy to be reduced to dust. The next, a single counterattack had erased one of their warships as if it had never existed. Admiral Carthos barked orders to re-establish formation, but the fleet hesitated. No enemy had ever survived their opening barrage, let alone ignore it entirely. The human warship remained silent, drifting in the void as if observing, calculating. Then it struck again. A barrage of hyperdense tungsten slugs ripped through space, moving too fast for the eye to follow. The first shot obliterated a Dominion destroyer before its crew even knew they were being targeted. The second tore through a battlecruiser's shields as if they were air, reducing it to a twisted wreck. Within seconds, 6 warships had been annihilated with surgical precision. The Dominion fleet scrambled to react. Fighters launched in swarms, hundreds of interceptors weaving through the void, hoping to overwhelm the human warship with sheer numbers. It was a tactic that had worked against countless enemies before. Against the Nemesis, it was suicide. Without warning, the hull of the human warship came alive. From its surface, dozens of automated point defense turrets emerged, tracking targets with inhuman precision. The moment the fighters entered range, the defense grid activated. High-intensity laser rays cut through the darkness, carving through Dominion fighters with terrifying efficiency. Each shot was a perfect kill. No wasted energy, no random fire, just clean, calculated destruction. The swarms disintegrated before they could even fire a single shot. Admiral Carthos clenched his fists, his mind racing for answers. This wasn't just advanced human technology. This was something else. Something beyond what he had thought possible. Their enemy wasn't just better armed. It was faster, smarter, and utterly ruthless. Desperate, he ordered the fleet to close the distance. If long-range weapons failed, perhaps a full-scale assault at point-blank range could overwhelm the human ship. The Dominion warship surged forward, engines burning at full capacity. The Nemesis did not retreat. It did not evade. It simply unleashed hell. In a single devastating salvo, the human warship deployed its railgun batteries. Unlike traditional Dominion weapons, which relied on energy-based attacks, these were purely kinetic weapons. Hypervelocity projectiles fired with devastating force. The first wave of slugs punched through 3 Dominion cruisers in a single shot, tearing through hulls as if they were paper. The second wave shredded an entire battle formation, sending debris scattering in all directions. Ships tried to maneuver, but it was useless. The Nemesis anticipated every move. It fired before they could react, predicting their evasions with mechanical efficiency. The Dominion fleet, once so certain of victory, was now reduced to a chaotic swarm of dying ships, their formation shattered, their commanders screaming for guidance. Admiral Carthos watched in horror as his forces collapsed around him. The warship they had mocked, the species they considered primitive, was tearing through them with absolute impunity. This wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. The final blow came in the form of the Nemesis's main weapon, a singularity cannon, a weapon unlike anything the Dominion had ever seen. With a deep, resonant hum, the ship's core pulsed, warping space itself. Then, in a blinding flash, a controlled singularity erupted from the warship's bow, consuming everything in its path. The Dominion's flagship, along with 40 surrounding vessels, was erased from existence in a fraction of a second. The surviving ships broke ranks, their crews abandoning all pretense of battle. Their fleet had been reduced to wreckage. Their greatest weapons had failed. The only choice left was escape. As they fled, they broadcast desperate warnings across Dominion space. The words were frantic, barely coherent, but the message was clear. The humans had built a warship beyond comprehension, a nightmare forged in steel. And it was coming. The news spread like wildfire across the Dominion. A single human warship had annihilated an entire battle group, leaving only terrified survivors to tell the tale. What should have been a routine extermination mission had turned into a disaster beyond comprehension. The Dominion had faced countless rebellions and crushed them all, but never before had they encountered an enemy that did not simply resist, but dominated them completely. Panic gripped the High Council. For the first time in recorded history, they faced a threat they could not understand. Humanity was supposed to be weak, technologically inferior, barely capable of space travel. The idea that they had constructed a warship capable of annihilating an armada was impossible. And yet, the evidence was undeniable. The Council convened an emergency war session, their voices sharp with urgency. There could be no hesitation. If humanity possessed even one such warship, it was a disaster. If they had more, it was an extinction-level event for the Dominion. The order was given: mobilize the Grand Fleet. Every available warship was summoned, forming the largest force assembled in 2,000 years. Over 5,000 vessels, including planetary bombardment dreadnoughts, carrier strike groups, and the Dominion's most advanced war machines, were gathered into a single armada. This was not a simple response. This was a declaration of total war. The fleet's mission was clear: destroy the Nemesis at all costs. If humanity had built one such ship, they could not be allowed to build another. The Grand Fleet would descend upon the human warship with overwhelming firepower and erase it from existence. But as the fleet moved toward its target, their enemy had already calculated their approach. The Nemesis did not wait. It chose the battlefield itself, emerging in the Dyson Expanse, an empty stretch of space known for its shifting gravitational fields and sense of distortions. Here, the Dominion's vast numbers would mean nothing. The Grand Fleet arrived in full force, its ships forming an impenetrable wall of firepower. 5,000 vessels, enough to shatter planets, annihilate entire species. The Dominion's supreme commander stood at the helm, convinced that no force in existence could withstand such a display of might. Then, the Nemesis began its attack. It moved with unnatural speed, cutting through the battlefield like a predator among prey. Where Dominion ships relied on formation and coordination, the Nemesis needed neither. It darted between the enemy's ranks, striking with impossible accuracy. Every weapon it fired was a kill shot. Railgun slugs speared through capital ships, reducing them to drifting wreckage. Hypersonic missiles hunted targets with inescapable precision, detonating with the force of miniature suns. The Dominion's finest warships, each the pride of their fleets, were torn apart in moments. The Grand Fleet fought back with everything it had. Entire wings of warships fired in unison, unleashing torrents of plasma, graviton lances, and dark matter warheads. Space itself burned under the sheer volume of firepower. And yet, none of it mattered. The Nemesis wove through their attacks, its shields absorbing energy blasts like raindrops against a mountain. Advanced Dominion targeting systems struggled to track its movements, their calculations failing against something that should not exist. Desperation turned to horror as the human ship unleashed its full arsenal. It deployed autonomous drone swarms, AI-controlled hunter-killers that slipped through enemy defenses, tearing ships apart from within. Dominion vessels tried to retreat, but the Nemesis predicted their escape routes, cutting them down before they could flee. Then, the final weapon activated. A gravitational singularity formed at the heart of the Dominion fleet, a controlled black hole deployed with surgical precision. One moment, hundreds of warships filled the void. The next, they were gone, ripped from reality, crushed into oblivion. The Grand Fleet, the mightiest force in the galaxy, had ceased to exist. The surviving commanders sent a last transmission to their homeworld, their voices hollow, defeated. We cannot win. The humans have become gods. The Dominion had ruled the galaxy for millennia, its fleets unmatched, its will enforced with absolute power. It had crushed countless civilizations, reduced empires to ash, and instilled fear in every species that dare resist. But now, for the first time in its long and brutal history, the Dominion knew true terror. The Nemesis had done the impossible. It had destroyed the Grand Fleet. 5,000 of the most advanced warships in existence had been annihilated, their wreckage scattered across the Dyson Expanse. There was no battle left to fight, no hope of victory. The Dominion's supreme commander, one of the most decorated warlords in history, had not even lived long enough to send a final order. The Dominion homeworld descended into chaos. The High Council, once arrogant and untouchable, was paralyzed by fear. Their military was broken, their strongest fleets reduced to debris. Billions of citizens, once convinced of their empire's invincibility, now looked to the stars with dread. And then the message came, a simple transmission, broadcast across every Dominion system. It contained no threats, no demands, only a single image. The Nemesis, silent, motionless, drifting through the void like an executioner waiting for the final command. The meaning was clear. Humanity had not invaded. They had not declared war. They had simply proven a point. The Dominion had mocked Earth, dismissing humanity as weak and insignificant. They had believed themselves untouchable. But in their arrogance, they had failed to realize a simple truth. Humans did not follow the rules of the galaxy. They did not fight wars of attrition. They did not rely on ancient traditions of honor or strategy. When threatened, humanity did one thing and one thing only. They built something that could not lose. The Nemesis was not just a warship. It was a message written in steel and fire. A single vessel had toppled an empire. A single creation had rewritten the balance of power in the galaxy. The Dominion had a choice: surrender and live, or resist and be erased. The High Council did not hesitate. Within hours, they broadcast their official declaration of unconditional surrender. The war, if it could even be called that, was over. Humanity had won before it had even begun. As the message spread across the galaxy, the other great empires watched in stunned silence. The implications were clear. If the most powerful force in the known universe had been destroyed so effortlessly, what hope did anyone else have? The answer was chilling in its simplicity. There was no hope. For the first time in history, the galaxy did not belong to the old empires, the ancient dominions, or the self-proclaimed rulers of the stars. It belonged to humanity.